when parents are asked what they want for their children, they typically say things like, I want my child to be healthy, to be happy, to be successful, to be joyful, to find fulfillment in life. And so my thought is, how do we get them there? How do we, because when we look out into society, do we see a lot of successful and fulfilled people? I would argue that you don't. I think you see a lot of people who may have success but lack fulfillment, or may have a certain level of fulfillment in life but aren't really as successful as they'd like to be. And then you have the range of dysfunction in society that, is almost like, I don't want to say a failed life, but certainly people who fell short of what they wanted for themselves, fell short of their dreams, right? And you can argue that life's competitive and there are all these challenges in society, and that's the reason why few people are successful. But I would argue that we haven't prepared our children adequately when they're young to live a life of success and fulfillment, of health. And if we don't prioritize these things when we're young, then how do we expect to be able to achieve them when we're older? And so when I look at the school system and how it moves from sort of the play-based fun experience that we introduce to children when they're in daycare and kindergarten, to grade 1, 2, things are becoming a little bit more serious and more academic, to the older grades, like maybe higher elementary, grade 6, 7, 8, where things are starting to get really serious, and there's this feeling of, I got to get myself ready for high school, next step's university. There's a lot of pressure from the adult world in terms of doing well and performing academically, and it starts all the way back in kindergarten, right? We start planting these seeds of why these things are important. And to be clear, a lot of times when children do a worksheet of some kind, when they're doing some basic number work, or they're doing tracing letters or learning letters, they may be doing that because they want you to be happy. If you're celebrating their success, they're not excited about the work. They're excited about your praise. They're excited about the stuff that you're presenting them. And that is creating a sort of dependency on you providing them with praise for them to feel good about themselves. Are they developing intrinsic motivation? Are they developing a sense of self-worth from within or from without? So, but in any case, they are very dependent on the adult world for validation, and that can continue right until adulthood. But typically what happens is children hit the age of 8, 9, 10 years old, they start getting a better sense of who they are, and a lot of them start feeling this disengagement with school. It's like they've played the game for a while, and it's not really, they've either solved it, right, and they've gotten good at playing the game and they know how to write the tests and do well in school, but they might not necessarily be fulfilling themselves or learning the skills that they're going to need to become successful later in life. They may be learning some of them, but a lot of them are going to be, underdeveloped. Creativity, sovereignty, problem solving, decision making, right? There's a lot of skills, certain communication skills. They're not developing those things in meaningful ways through school. So you have the category of students that are successful in school, but maybe it's not serving them the way they would need to be served in order to find that success later in life. And then you have these students who've become completely disengaged and disenchanted with school. They basically feel like they're dumb, school's not working for them, they've played this game and it's just not making sense for them. And those kids just stare at the clock and wait for time to run out so they can go to recess. They're not actually, they'll do the bare minimum just so that they don't get in trouble. That's not really meaningful growth or learning. And so we end up with high school students who are either connected to school and are playing the game and want to get good grades. You can argue that a lot of what they learn they forget, all right, but they can do well on a test. And if the material that they're absorbing is somehow meaningful to them or builds on itself, yeah, maybe they'll retain some of that information, but a lot gets lost. If you ask yourself how much of the material you learned in school do you carry with you, and to what extent Does the stuff that you actually carry with you and remember serve you well today? How do you use it on the daily basis? I mean, I think the percentage of what we learn compared to what we actually use is a tiny, tiny fraction. So all this time spent in school, and what do we get out of it? So you have the category of high school students that are successful, they're in a path, but are they really connecting to their spirit? Do they know what they want for themselves? Or have they been jumping through somebody else's hoops for so long that they don't really have a connection to what it is that makes them tick, right? And again, it's not everybody, but a lot of students fit into that category. And then you have the other side where children are just not into school, and they're just going to high school to check off that box. And what's their purpose? What's their experience? How are they setting themselves up for success and fulfillment? So what I love about the Apogee model and what we're doing here at our school is we're asking these important questions. What is a meaningful education? What will it take for our children to be successful and fulfilled later in life? What kind of skills do we want them to develop? And how do we start that process at the youngest age possible? Because again, the habits we develop when we're young, the way we wire our brain when we're young, is critical to our future success. So I encourage all families, whether you connect with the Apogee model or you come to our school or not, ask these questions, right? What am I doing to help my child become successful later in life? How am I instilling healthy habits in my child? And one of the things that we as parents will often shy away from is putting ourselves under the magnifying glass. Are we doing what we need to be doing to inspire our children to be growth-minded? Are we doing what we need to be doing to inspire our children to be health-minded? Are we doing what we should be doing to encourage children's creativity and curiosity? Because, when we tell them to do something, that doesn't resonate as much as us leading by example.